Again, wholeness to everyone. And we're going to begin, as usual, with a brief review. I've been going over this, and look, more light um, and more enlightenment on these subjects is coming every day. And Nasik and I were talking today about how we have moved into that 11th chapter of Genesis, where this language is becoming more holistic, more singular, moment by moment. And we are at that point where we can make the statement that nothing that we put our minds to or focus our attention on, put it that way, nothing that we make our intent rather, and focus our attention on will be
And
withheld
that's
from us. will
let's make sure that we go that direction, okay?
that's correct. That's correct. You know, we sometimes we fall back into these old definitions, but the
Yeah.
you know, uh, so yesterday we talked about how energy is constantly being brought or drawn back unto and into itself. That as it goes out, this cycle of return, inhale, exhale, um, expansion, contraction, how that is in play, both cosmic and solar energy. And we focused on this cycle, the solar cycle, and looked at it, Nasi, as a closed system. The solar system, or the enclosed solar system, that is the garden or the box, locks humans into a highly competitive, imperfect, inefficient, repetitive, self refueling, self perpetuating cycle that features work, or in Hebrew, avad, translated as worship, as the highest expression and sole purpose of existence.
Absolutely. Absolutely.
I'll repeat that again because we need to meditate on this.
Yeah. Yeah.
The enclosed solar system, that is the Garden of Eden, or the box, not see as we've coined it, locks humans into a highly competitive, and not only humans,
All life,
all
right.
life, not just humans, but for the purposes of where we're focusing on, but locks humans and all life into a highly competitive, imperfect, inefficient, repetitive, self refueling, self perpetuating cycle that features work, that is avad in Hebrew, the word that is translated as worship, as the highest expression and sole purpose of existence. So we
Some kind
started.
of definition.
What did you say, Nasi?
So there's some kind of definition there. And I mean, when you look at that, and no one can disagree with that as being, if you don't work, you don't eat. You don't work, you don't live.
Right.
You know, I mean, so it appears to be perfect, but we got to always remember it's still a simulated reality.
Still a simulated reality, Nasi. And this is the point that we're trying to make. And see, once we can make this differentiation, nothing is going to be withheld from us. This is the track that we can run on, and we can run on it as fast as we want it to run on it. But we have to make this. This has to come into our consciousness and come into our awareness that what we have thought was real was not real at all. And so we are coming into awareness. which is the initial stages of consciousness, that we have to wake up and then we have to be aware of what it is that we've awoken to, what type of environment, and we are distinguishing that environment. So this enclosed solar system is, as Nasik stated, the simulated reality, highly competitive, imperfect, inefficient, repetitive, self-refueling, self-perpetuating, and work underlies this whole process. The fact of you working for something, physical work, spiritual work, this type of work, that type of work, that is at the epicenter of this system, you working.
That's
So,
it. I like that. I really like that.
yeah, so we took a look at that, and we connected this to the sacrificial system that is featured in the scriptures. And we pointed out how the divine never asked for that, never required it. When um, we looked at Isaiah, the first chapter, never required it. And this created a paradox, a general paradox that this whole system is based on. And we understand that the intellect cannot help us solve or resolve this paradox, that the requirement that is inherent in all of this is a transition that we must make from what? The intellect to intuition. And that's just another way of saying moving from the human processes or relying on the human aspect and transitioning to the divine aspect. So, since this was based on food, on eating, on a diet, and we say we're not talking about a diet. We're talking about higher concepts here. But the diet is necessary since this transition, Nasik, is happening within space-time, within the
Right.
space-time reality. And although awareness can be instantaneous and at a moment, there's a process sometimes for some people. There is a process to this transition. Some individuals make it immediately. Some individuals make it faster. Some individuals make it a bit slower to transition. But the point is, as long as we are all pointed in the same direction, that our goals are what? Similar. This is the 11th chapter of Genesis, now see, that we are
Yeah.
of one language, of one purpose. Then we share that connection, we share that brotherhood, we share that lineage that doesn't necessarily have to do with skin tone, doesn't necessarily have to do with nationality or anything human like that.
Right. Right.
So, indeed, we talk about those things because they are relevant in some sense, but that is not the stopping point. That is not the end all be all. Because once, just like you were saying yesterday, now see, once we make this transition, these differences start to what? Dissipate,
Yes. Right.
disappear, and become less and less important. And we start to, as we've been encouraging you, see similarities more than differences,
Right.
and
Right.
see and begin to see wholeness as more than differentiation and variableness. So, but again, it's a process to get there. So we um, we respect both things. We're not trying to omit one or the other in terms of polarity, but we have to move more towards intuition, more towards divinity, because this aspect of humanity has been brutally
Brutal.
uh, uh, stamped in our consciousness to where we can't see nothing else. It's very difficult to see ourselves as the creator.
Can't see it. Cannot see it.
We wanna be euphemistic and say, oh well, yeah, I'm a co-creator. I'm a co-creator. But the reality is one, not two, not several. So when we get the confidence, as we get the confidence to uh, identify with that more and more strongly, we'll see the world change, the environment change, and we will we will realize now see that we are actually controlling this. No one else. That we are for signs and seasons, that we influence events that are happening on the planet. So we took a look yesterday at these Raleigh Bernard uh, convection experiments to show us the self-refueling, self-perpetuating nature
Right.
of the simulated reality. Now, as it relates to events that are happening, I had mentioned, Nasi, the events that were occurring in South Africa. Now, here we are in America, we talking about reparations and stuff like that. The South Africans are taking back their country. And I'm going to let the official here speak on it in his own words, in terms of what is actually occurring
On Tuesday,
in South Africa.
South Africans, through their publicly elected representatives in Parliament, voted overwhelmingly in support of a motion to accelerate equitable land redistribution through expropriation of land without compensation.
Expropriation of land without compensation.
Wow.
They taking theirs back. See, this is a spirit, family. This is
No. This is what time it is.
say again, I see.
No, I said this is exactly what time it is. We
This is
right
what
on
time it is.
time.
We taking our stuff back. And it started, Nasi, with us taking our symbols back,
There you go.
taking our science back,
There you go.
actually taking the power to define back.
Right. That's actually right. That's what it is. Back in our hands.
Back in our hands.
You know.
And so, man, this, I just realized it. And
Yeah. Right.
now see, I don't often try to talk about myself like that, but I'll tell you something that was really strange to me that the ancestors told me recently, and I'm talking about within the last 5 or 6 months or so. And my Esau was there when I realized it, and they said, whatever you say it is, that's what it is.
Hey, that's what he did, Eitai. I mean, you remember when I was been on me, we was always saying the power to define is the hand of, you understand, corrupt men is a weapon of oppression and satanic control.
That's
We have to fall back in our hand, whatever we say it is, that's what it is.
right.
Yeah, because we coming from the intuitive as opposed to the intellectual.
That's correct.
Yeah.
That's correct. So this has to do with, now see, you had mentioned it the other day, the whole Adam naming thing.
Right, right, right.
Naming thing. And that created a certain reality that, I mean, you know, has it benefited us or not? It has not benefited us at all.
No, no.
You know, now we've reached the point where, again, this was said in a very personal way. Whatever you say it is, it is. As a man thinks. See, we used to talk about it and think about it and meditate on these things. Yeah, you know, as a man thinketh, so is he. The power of life and death is in the tongue. And these things were nice, you know, from a conceptual standpoint, from an intellectual standpoint. Now, see, they made us our egos, they fed our egos, but, you know, rarely did we demonstrate that power
Right,
on
right,
a
right.
consistent basis. But we've reached this point now where these things are coming into being. And the evidence, look, expropriation of land, what? Without compensation.
Without compensation.
Now that's what we said.
Yeah.
So live with it.
Eitai.
1 second.
Some have become very hopeful. Some have become very fearful. It is a question that we will continue to handle with care and with responsibility as the government. There will be no smash and grab of land in our country. That we will not allow.
But they're saying, and we don't know if these reports are true or they're false, but they're saying that, you know, the farmers in South Africa have been claiming they are being targeted in horrific attacks. But, you know, it's hard for me to believe these individuals. Very hard for me to believe these individuals because they have been so duplicitous.
Yeah.
You know, in the past, and, you know, there is a law of karma. So whether they're being targeted and attacked, what happened is, did they target and attack the indigenous people?
Right.
So I don't have no problem with it.
Right.
I really don't have no problem, whether it's happening like that or not. I really don't have no problem with it because I understand, be not deceived. Whatsoever you sow, that you will also reap. So, you know, the thing that I'm encouraged about is that the tail is becoming the head, and that the worm is turning. And like Malcolm X said, the chickens are just coming home to roost. Whatever you send out and however you send it, that's the way it comes back on you.
Yep.
So however this thing turns over, I'm fine with it. But go ahead, brother.
Also want to remind the family, on this side, in April, from the 17th of April to I think the 27th of April, the brother I've been working with, along with other indigenous organizations, are going to address the UN, and the theme is the reclaiming of land, territories, and resources. So it's happening in both hemispheres.
Okay. Malkia, I love that. I get what is going on. It is necessary that we do this. I've been watching this and studying this this sovereignty. I'll call it a movement, but and it is a movement. It is a movement, and it is a result of our ever increasing awareness and and level of consciousness. One of the things that when I deal with people on this, because I've worked very closely with individuals that were involved in this, and Wesley Snipes being probably the most prominent with what he was doing in down there in Atlanta, and what eventually they short-stopped him on. They had bought a tremendous amount of land down there, and I had often talked to him about this. And the one point that I was making, in terms of nationhood and sovereignty, the only thing that the United States and the rest of these, Euro-Gentile nations, in terms of recognizing, in a real sense, nationhood, the only thing that they fear is a standing army. Are y'all hearing me? Power, you can put it on paper all you want to, but if you don't have a means, and I'm not talking about force, people, not talking about grabbing weapons.
Right.
You don't have a means, family, of of showing power.
Right.
All that stuff on paper don't mean nothing because they're not going to respect it. These are bandits. These are thieves. These are genocide. I mean, they have done the land grab. They have done the smash and grab. They are on record for doing that. And the only thing that they respect is greater power, a greater power than theirs. And this is what we are coming into. This
Absolutely.
is what, the groundwork and the paperwork has been laid. And there's greater awareness now of people understanding exactly who they are, exactly where they originated from, and what their rights as heirs is to the land. And we're going to talk about this specifically today and going forward, family. This is the most exciting time to be alive.
Gang. Say that, shows.
This fourth quarter stuff, y'all.
Fourth quarter stuff, huh?
This fourth quarter action. But I understand this is in-game action.
This is in-game, right.
And if you're a warrior, this is right what you was born. This is why you came here.
Yes. Eitai.
This is why you came here, to close the show. And this is exactly what we're going to do. So we have to know who we are and what exactly we're involved with. You all got to understand that this is, we are on these calls anywhere. We start them anywhere from 9 o'clock Eastern Standard Time to 10 o'clock. You with me, Malkiel?
Absolutely.
This is prime time for workers.
Yeah, yes. Right.
This is prime time. This is the heart of the workday.
Yes.
From when you walk in and get your coffee, sit down at your desk, or, get your work, and, we moving toward what? Lunch hour, the lunch break. We ain't even getting started
Mm-hmm.
yet.
Mm-hmm.
Y'all got to understand what this is, what this represents.
Mm-hmm.
And Malkiel, this is going to get even easier for us to do once this,
Okay.
once this economic piece comes in.
Yes. Absolutely. Absolutely.
And then we're gonna be able to do whatever we want to.
Exactly.
Go meet wherever we want, wherever in the world we want to meet. Just,
Exactly, shows.
just because we want to meet there.
Just like that. And that's real talk.
We are at the doorstep. Trust me, believe me. Malkiel, you let me know when you want to bring that piece, because this is the very next thing that we have to talk about, all right?
Okay. Say.
Call me anytime, text me anytime you want to.
Okay.
We need to, this is the next step of this thing, but we doing it now anyway.
Mm-hmm.
But these things are going to elevate. So this thing was related to diet. We related it to diet and food because, that's where we are at this point. And, we talked about the different transitions from meat, the transitional diets and stuff like that. And now we're looking at this inefficient system of what? Consuming solar energy. And there has to be a transition from the solar to the cosmic. All right.
Mm-hmm.
So we asked the question a few days ago, what does a God eat? What does the creator eat? The Kabbalah tells us that as we look at these things, to keep our gaze where? Inward, not upward. And to be mindful to keep our focus on the star. And we are the stars. We are the ones, we are the influencers within this system. The stars don't control us now. No zodiac. Time, Nasik, doesn't control us any longer. We on this call at the heart of the workday.
Mm-hmm.
Absolutely.
The heart of
Mm-hmm.
the workday
Mm-hmm.
here in the West.
Mm-hmm.
So we understand things. We're beginning to understand and understand things on a cosmic level. The universe may have been born inside a black hole. Well, we are not speculating. We'll let them speculate. We know this to be the case.
Right.
And the black holes in our cosmos might be birthing new universes of their own. And again, we know that this is a fact, that this, from a cosmic level, that this is how things are created, how worlds are created, and how, and we are the ones that put this thing into motion. We looked at Genesis, Slicka. We looked at Genesis, the 37th chapter, the 9th verse, where it talked about Joseph dreaming a dream. And we said, according to our understanding of the multiverse and the seven heavens or the seven realms of the multiverse, that Joseph and Azrael correspond to the third heaven, which is foundational, meaning that the first two heavens consist or comprise rather the astral plane, which is still part of the simulated reality. Adam, Eve, Jesus, And that the third heaven, that first step outside of the astral plane, outside of the simulated reality, has to do with Joseph. And he, Joseph, dreamed yet another dream and told it his brethren and said, Behold, I have dreamed a dream more. And behold, the sun, the moon, the 11 stars made obeisance to me, bowed down to me, which indicated that he was no longer what? Controlled by the solar system. Are you all with me?
Okay.
Sun, moon, 11 stars, that he was no longer controlled by the solar system, that enclosed system. He was no longer in the garden, but his eyes had been opened. And what happened when their eyes were open? They no longer could be what? Within the closed system. They were kicked out and prevented from what? Coming back. See, we viewed that as a negative.
Absolutely. That was viewed as a negative. But again, we look at it and we say, but they saw things different. The difference was that their level of consciousness had gone to another level. Of course, naturally, they were seen as different.
Saw what God saw.
But of course, you see things different when you get to another realm of consciousness.
That's correct.
Absolutely.
That's correct. What'd you say, Nazar?
I said he said they gonna see what God say. They wouldn't die, they'll see what God see.
That's right. So, again, there was a form of death that was related. I mean, they didn't fall down and die physically, but there was a form of death that was related to that. In other words, dying to the old self, and what was they doing in the garden? Tilling, avad. They was working. So they had ended their work. Are y'all hearing me?
Yes.
So they didn't need to stay within a work system anymore. They could what? Graduate to another system. Graduate to another system.
Call it ascension, huh?
That is ascension. But family, we didn't, none of us, we didn't have any understanding of a simulated reality.
Okay.
So
never even heard of the word.
Right. So I mean, we went along with what everybody else was going along with.
Okay.
But we're in the ascension realm now. So we cannot stay attached to that old way of thinking that what caused us to be enclosed within a certain aspect of reality and a certain behavior pattern. We are in a transition. We are in the ascension mode now.
Okay.
So it has to be a new word. It has to be a new thought and a new way of seeing things. Our eyes must be open.
Yes.
Exodus 32 and 13. Remember Abraham, Isaac, and Israel, thy servants, to whom thou swearest by thine own self, and saidest unto them, I will multiply your seed as what? The stars of heaven. Keep this, the aspect of the star ever in your awareness. And we're going to see that this is consistent throughout the scriptures. And all this land that I have spoken of will I give unto your seed. Well, we see this happening in South Africa. The ground has been laid.
Absolutely.
In the east. The ground has been laid in the east. To do it what? Mercifully at first.
Right.
But we got a power plan
Mm-hmm.
That is in its incubation now. We are connecting to it
Okay.
so that whatever we say it is, that's what it's going to be.
Mm-hmm.
I will multiply your seed as the stars of heaven, and all this land that I have spoken of will I give unto your seed, and they shall inherit it for how long? Forever.
Forever.
This getting real personal now. We looked at Numbers, the 24th chapter, verses 1 through 9 and verses 17 through 19. And you all remember this when Balaam he was conscripted or contracted to do what? Curse Israel. However, when Balaam saw that it pleased the Lord to bless Israel, he went not, as the other times, to seek for enchantments, but he set his face toward the wilderness. And Balaam lifted up his eyes, and he saw Israel abiding where, family? In tents according to their
Mm-hmm.
tribe. See, this as it relates to specifically to Israel through Isaac from Shem, the tribe of Shem and Eber, the only place we dwelled in tents was in the Americas.
Mm-hmm.
Y'all see Coming to America down there?
Okay.
We're going to connect all of this with that. This is undeniable, unmistakable. A fool couldn't err in understanding these things. Our ancestors have laid this out, and the Spirit of God came upon him, and he took up this parable and said, Balaam, son of Beor, hath said, and the man whose eyes are open, their eyes were open. Do y'all see the connection?
Mm-hmm.
Their eyes were open. That's what the serpent told them would happen. And he said, which heard the words of God, which saw the vision of the Almighty, falling into a trance, but having his eyes open. How goodly are thy tents, O Jacob, and thy tabernacles, O Israel. This is related to, like we said yesterday, Succoth, the Sukkah, the temporary dwellings. All right? As the valleys are they spread forth, as gardens by the riverside, as trees of line aloes, which the Lord hath planted, and as cedar trees beside the waters. We see these scenes very graphically in America. He shall pour the water out of his bucket. He shall pour the water out of his buckets, and his seed shall be in many waters, and his king shall be higher than Agag, and his kingdom shall be exalted. God brought them forth out of Egypt, and he hath, as it were, the strength of an unicorn. He shall eat up the nations as his enemies. That's our diet. And shall break their bones and pierce them through with his arrows. Very important scripture, portion of scripture here. He laid down as a lion, and as a great lion, who shall stir him up? Blessed is he that blesseth thee, and cursed is he that curseth thee. I shall see him, listen, but not now. I shall behold him, but not nigh, not near. there shall come what? A star out of Jacob, and a scepter shall rise out of Israel, and shall smite the corners of Moab, and destroy all the children of Sheth. When we get back into finding Eber, we'll understand the significance of the names Moab, Sheth, or Set, Edom, and Seir. We'll understand this perfectly. And Edom shall be a possession. Seir also shall be a possession for his enemies. And Israel shall do valiantly. Out of Jacob shall come he that shall have dominion. That sound like a king?
Mm-hmm.
And shall destroy him that remaineth of the city. See, this scenario of verse 19 is happening in South Africa right now.
Mm-hmm.
We're giving you we legally a chance to what? Expropriate that land. You're not going to get
Exactly.
compensated for it because you didn't pay for it.
Right.
So now, if you don't remain and you try to hold on to it, guess what's going to happen? You're going to be destroyed.
Mm-hmm.
One way or the other, you're going to be destroyed. So we look at coming to America. Because, family, as we've been emphasizing, this is a movie, right, that Eddie Murphy wrote, full of symbolism.
Mm-hmm.
And we've been emphasizing this move from what? The east to the west, how the sun rises and sets. And so in the movie Coming to America, you have an African prince who had everything that does what? Comes to the west in search of his bride. Breaking tradition. This is
Dang.
prophetic. This
Mm-hmm.
follows the prophetic framework, family, to an extent, to a precise extent. When I saw this today, I'm like, wow. So it talks about this symbolism in verse 9, a lion, right? And
Mm-hmm.
then a great lion. Do y'all see this?
Mm-hmm. Mm-hmm.
So in Genesis, the 49th chapter, where what? Isaac, or I'm sorry, Israel, Jacob blessed the children and told them what would befall them in the end times. You all remember what I'm talking about.
Okay.
It talks about this thing word for word. As a matter of fact, the Numbers quote is based on this quote as it relates to Judah. Now, Judah, was it the northern kingdom or was it the southern kingdom in ancient Israel?
That was the Southern Kingdom.
All right. We see what's going on in South Africa, right?
Mm-hmm. Mm-hmm.
Judah. Now
Okay.
that's happening, family, from north to south. Or I'm sorry,
Mm-hmm.
from south to north.
To the north. Mm-hmm.
This is going to happen from west to east.
Mm-hmm.
Judah, thou art he whom thy brethren shall praise. Thy hand shall be in the neck of thine enemies. We are in the midst of our enemies. We can walk outside blindfolded and grab one of our enemies by the neck in the West.
Mm-hmm.
Thy father's children shall bow down before thee. See, again, this is connected to to Joseph rather, in his dream, where what? The sun, the moon, the 11 stars made obeisance to him. Now, he wasn't necessarily talking about his father and mother and them and brethren like that. He was talking about this time family where cosmic energy would do what? Displace solar energy. Y'all got to hear
Mm-hmm.
me.
Mm-hmm.
And when you look at the flag of Zamunda, you see the great lion doing
Right.
what? Destroying the lion, the young lion,
Mm-hmm.
the type of energy that was available what? In the enclosed solar
Destroying
system.
sun.
Right.
Right.
But it's a greater lion.
Mm-hmm.
And that this thing
Mm-hmm.
would be started in America. That this
Mm-hmm.
conceptualization would come from the West, not the East.
Mm-hmm.
The flag of Zamunda depicts the great lion, cosmic energy, dark energy, matter, consciousness. What? Displacing the couched lion or the young lion, solar energy. And it says, out of Jacob shall come he that shall have dominion. The
Uh-huh.
one, the heir to the throne, was Akim family in coming
Mm-hmm.
to America. The name Akim is a Muslim male name meaning what? Knowledgeable, insightful, or wise.
Mm-hmm.
The new discovery that we talked about yesterday was
Right.
made in the galaxy that they've called WISE 1029
Right.
plus 0501. This new source of the energy that is what? Shooting this cosmic beam to Earth.
Yes.
So, family, that you can wean yourself gradually out of this system,
Mm-hmm.
which is what? Highly competitive, imperfect,
Mm-hmm.
inefficient,
Right.
repetitive, self refueling, self perpetuating, that what? Features work or avad, worship, as the highest expression and sole purpose of existence. You can wean yourself off of that system and then gradually, sooner rather than later, transition into what? Dependence on another energy source, which is your source.
Mm-hmm.
We're not talking about something that is up in the sky. Our ancestors warned us, yeah, keep your eye ever on the star, but let not your footsteps, but let your eyes what? Watch over your footsteps,
Mm-hmm.
lest you fall into the mire by reason of your upward gaze. We ain't talking about looking at the stars and worshiping the stars. We're talking about realizing that we're the star
Okay.
and that our source is internal, not external. Does it make sense?
Absolutely.
Game.
Absolutely.
Genesis 49 and 9. Judah is a lion's whelp. From the prey, my son, thou art gone up. He stooped down. Didn't we stoop down?
Mm-hmm.
We had to, family. We had to stoop down. We had to bow down in order for this flaw to be corrected.
Yes.
He couched down as a lion. And then they say as an old lion. That word does not translate as old, family. It translates as stout, strong, rehabilitated, recovered from the operation. A great lion. Who shall rouse him up? They don't want us to connect with this. They don't want us to rouse this lion up. But guess what? Too bad. He's roused up now.
Absolutely.
Too bad, too late.
Too late.
Too
Can't
bad.
none of y'all go back to sleep. You cannot go back. You can't go back. You can't go back, now see, to the garden. You can't go back to the garden.
That's crystal clear.
We woke this up. This new what? Weirdest black hole ever found.
Right. Right.
We woke the great lion up. Because
brand new energy, a different kind of energy.
Because that's correct, Miss Ura. It's time for y'all to eat. It's time for the lion to eat.
I told y'all yesterday I had on my bid.
Listen, the scepter shall not depart from Judah. Family, I say this without ego. Everybody is not Judah.
Okay.
Okay.
Nor a lawgiver from between his feet. Now, see, we understand what the law is. The law is not made up of thou shalt not, thou shalt not, thou shalt not, thou shalt not. That is the law under the simulated system. And guess what? You better follow that. If you're a human,
right.
The law of divinity is one law. Echad. Wholeness. Singularity. That is the greatest.
It will be.
that is the greatest and the first of all the commandments. Hear, O Israel, Yahweh, thy God is what? One, echad, singular. Until Shiloh come, and unto him shall be the gathering, shall the gathering of the people be. We're gonna come back to this term Shiloh at a later date and really we've touched on it a little bit, but with this greater understanding, family, we're going to go back and review that as well and have a perfect understanding of what that concept actually is. So we talked about this star that they just discovered, this black hole rather, that they just recently discovered on March the 2nd of this year. And this corresponds again, family. I mean, we just recently, again, I'll remind you as I did yesterday, started focusing on this, started to put our attention on this. and they discover something new that what turns the whole their entire conception of a black hole upside down. Ain't no way they're gonna be able to catch up. It's too the look, the genie is out the bottle. Literally. Literally. The lion is up. So in relation to work, we introduced another term called magnum opus, the magnum opus of alchemy. Magnum opus means the great work, the great work. And it does not have to do, or I should say, it has little to do with work within the solar system and within the solar cycle. It has to do with the divine work, our mission, as it were, our specific assignment as individuals that relates to why you emanated into the simulated reality, this enclosed reality in the first place. And there's evidence every day that I talk to people that are on this call, they are awakening to an understanding, an understanding of exactly what they need to do at this particular time. And again, this is going to be aided by our transition from the intellectual, because now see, we were each educated and trained in a certain way, and so our perception even of ourselves was false.
Absolutely, absolutely.
And, and therefore the work and the mission that we assumed that we should be, that's false. It would have to be false also,
Yeah.
because it's based on what? Our entrainment, whether religious, whether societal, whether cultural. It was all programming to what? Lock us further into the solar system. So the magnum opus, or great work of alchemy, because we all know that we are part of this alchemical process that was
Right.
set in motion by our ancestors. This is why the simulated reality was created in the first place.
Right.
But this contains the singular truth. Our understanding of this work contains the singular truth that all alchemists need to know. The alchemist tells Santiago that the tablet can't be understood with reason, family. You can't figure this out with your intellect. It's not based on logic and intellectual knowledge, because it doesn't have to do with anything related to humanity, with anything related to the simulated reality. It provides a passage to the soul of the world. It has to do not with the SOLAR, but the SOULAR system. And that is cosmic. It's not related to the sun. So we actually want to get into the how-to aspect. Some of this stuff we'll come back to, but we actually want to use this momentum to get into the how-to aspect of this. The alchemical process of the hangman is called calcination. Calcination. Now, I've deliberately not provided a definition there for you because I want you all to go and to search this thing out and find this term, calcination, on your own. All right? CALCINATION. And again, we'll come back to it, but I want you all to research that and search that out on your own. Very important. The alchemical process of the hangman is calcination. Matter or body is suspended over fire or a corrosive agent to reduce it to a white ash. To reduce it to a white ash. The Codex Germanicus shows calcination represented by what? A man hanged from the gallows. The crucified serpent. Now, what do I mean by crucified serpent?
The root chakra being reversed. It slipped my mind.
That's all right. Now, see, you were on course, but let's go back and give everyone else a view of this.
Something to do with the tree. Tree.
Everyone turn to Numbers,
Numbers.
the 21st chapter. Numbers, the 21st chapter. And I'm going to start at the 5th verse. And the people spake against God and against Moses. Wherefore have you brought us up out of Egypt to die in the wilderness? For there is no bread, neither is there any water, and our soul loatheth this light bread. Now, again, focusing, family, on this diet and what? This solar system that the allegorical ancient children of Israel were up under. And they were complaining about this. And the Lord sent fiery serpents among the people, and they bit the people, and much people of Israel died. Therefore, the people came to Moses and said, We have sinned, for we have spoken against the Lord and against thee. Pray unto the Lord that he take away the serpents from among us. And Moses prayed for the people. Listen now. Here's the crucified serpent. And the Lord said unto Moses, Make thee a fiery serpent, and set it upon a pole. And it shall come to pass that everyone that is bitten, when he looketh upon it, shall live. And Moses made a serpent of brass. Now this is called Nahash, the fiery serpent, and put it upon a pole. And it came to pass that if a serpent had bitten any man, he beheld the serpent of brass, and he lived. And the children of Israel set forward and pitched in Oboth. Oboth. Now this word OB, write it down. This is very important. The name Barack Obama begins with this, and the Oboth are connected with this. We're going to get into this later, but this is the first reference of the crucified serpent, and it relates to an alchemical process. And it says that the crucified serpent is Mercury. All right. Now, according to mythology, who and what is Mercury? According to mythology, Roman and Greek mythology,
He was a messenger.
he's a messenger. So this crucified serpent is a hidden message, family, a hidden message. It corresponds in alchemy to Mercury. And again, we're going to talk about this in a future class, which must be sacrificed to do what? Complete the work. Complete the work. In hanging upside down, the hangman is losing his gold. Is losing his gold, which represents the loss of worldly possessions, and not so much worldly possession of the world.
Yes.
Because I believe one of the sisters reminded me, those who what? Love this life shall what? Lose it.
Right.
And those that lose this life for my sake, what? They'll gain it. We're gonna talk about this within the context again of Matthew 16.
Yes.
The hangman is losing his gold, and we see it here in the middle. He had to let it go. What do you see at the top, family? Right there.
Snake.
The
A
Yeah, that's a
serpent. A
serpent.
serpent. That's a serpent wrapped
serpent.
around the tree.
This is a
Okay,
hidden
go ahead.
message. The serpent
Mm.
is holding him on. See, we continue to think that the serpent is evil, but the sign of the serpent is the sign of wisdom, hidden wisdom, effective wisdom. Y'all won't die. Y'all won't die, but your eyes will be open.
Yes.
But they've cast the serpent in what? A negative role.
Mm-hmm.
But if you're gonna live, you got to look on the serpent. This is wisdom. This is wisdom. It represents the loss of worldly possessions, or the world possessing you, or self-esteem, our sense of our role in the world. The role, we've identified with the role, but we've forgotten that we were acting, that we were down here to what? Perform in a broader scenario, to play a role, but we've mistakenly believed we've become the character.
Dang.
And we've forgotten what? That we are divine beings emanated down here to play a role. But we think that we can act our way, work our way back to our divine source.
Okay.
That's I mean, you can't, Denzel as a character can't act his way back to Denzel. That would be
Right.
ridiculous. He walking around as the guy from um, from one of his movies. Well, we would say he was crazy. We would be like, Denzel, quit playing, man. But we got to stop playing.
Okay.
We were down here to perform a mission and to perform a mission as a particular character and fill in the blank with your name. But that's not you. That's the character you're playing. That's the character that we recognize, but that is not you. You are divinity playing the role of a human. So the question is, what role are you playing? Human or divine? In Matthew 16, it puts this idea into context. Then charged he, now I'm reading from verse 20 through verse 28, if people are taking notes. Matthew 16, 20 through 28. And then he charged his disciples that they should tell no man that he was Jesus the Christ. That is the difference between Jesus the human. He's telling them that he's divine, that Jesus is just a role that he is playing. We clear?
Okay.
So when he came to that particular awareness
Not saying the phone
and gave the disciples, showed them the distinction between what? His humanity and his divinity. From that time forth, he began to show unto his disciple how he must go to Jerusalem and suffer many things. Of whom? Of the elders, the chief priests, and the scribes. Those individuals that were holding on to what? The false identity based on old knowledge. And eventually what? Be killed and raised on the third day. Now, this third day, family, again, is not a day like that. It represents the third yom, or heaven. Listen carefully. That is beyond the astral plane, that we already said consisted of the first two yomim. In other words, he was talking about how he must now make the transition, that he knows the worker, Jesus, the worker within the what? Simulated system, must what? Transition into the organic reality, which begins where? In the third heaven. The first two yomim represent still are a part of the simulated reality, what is referred to as the astral plane. The astral plane. Then Peter took him and began to rebuke him, saying, Be it far from thee, Lord, this should not be unto thee. Now, Peter represents the survival imperative, something that is inside all of us. Are you all with me?
Yeah.
Now see, Peter was the one that first of all spoke this as soon as he heard, man, we gonna have to die.
All right.
Again, this is all inside of us.
Right.
We're gonna show that the 12 disciples are inside of you. These
Yeah.
12 aspects, now see, that all must be disciplined.
Absolutely right.
You can't let them things control you. You got to control them.
Okay.
And it indicates, Peter indicates the survival imperative, the fight or flight instinct of the ego.
Yeah.
Listen, y'all remember in the Garden of Gethsemane that it was Peter that took out the sword.
Right.
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 And cut off the guy's ear.
Yeah. Right.
Fight. And then he made the statement, no, everybody might leave you, but I won't leave you. I'm not going to deny you. And
Right. Right.
Divinity told him before the cock crows,
Right.
you're going to deny me 3 times.
Right.
Right.
See, this is a testimony of the challenge that's before everybody to make this full transition, because Peter believed and Peter was right there.
Yes, sir.
But that caused for him to have to let go of traditions that he would have a problem with.
Peter was back there, now we right there.
See, everything from this simulated reality. See, this is what's holding us back. So we each must realize it. We each must realize Peter wasn't outside of or separate. Peter's inside all of us.
Okay.
Yes.
There's something,
especially right now.
That's right. There's something in us that don't want to leave this enclosed system. It's what we've become used to.
Absolutely.
We're comfortable in it. Some of us more or less than others.
Absolutely.
But he turned to him and said unto Peter, Get behind me, opposer, adversary. Thou art an offense unto me, for thou savorest not the things of the higher consciousness, but those that be of men, human, workers, servants. Then said Jesus unto his disciple, If any man will come after me, let him deny himself, take up his cross, and follow me. And see, there was a knowledge, family, like we said, because remember, we're talking about perceiving the ancestors as watchers or guardians over thought forms, right?
Right.
Yeah.
And certain types of knowledge. There's a knowledge that led us straight to this point, that led us safely and guarded us. What? Through the simulated reality.
Yes.
But we got to crucify that knowledge.
Yeah.
We got to put, look, if y'all can see this, that knowledge is nailed to the cross. Look, y'all see them nails in the serpent where it's bleeding?
Yeah.
Y'all see the nails right there.
Right.
Yeah.
That's the first thing that we got to crucify.
Yeah. That's 2 nails. All right.
That's right.
Yeah.
We
Thanks for pointing that out. Wow.
got to deaden that knowledge. We got to crucify that knowledge too. It led us thus far. It caused us to what? Live when we looked at it. But it's got to be another knowledge, another word. Isn't that what we've been saying?
Yeah. Okay.
For whoever shall save his life shall lose it. And whosoever will lose his life for my sake, well, who was he? He was the divinity, the Christ consciousness, shall find it. For what is a man profited if he shall gain the whole world and lose his own soul? Or what shall a man give in exchange for his soul? For the Son of Man shall come in the glory of his Father with his angels, and then he shall reward every man according to his works. Verily I say unto you, listen very carefully, family. There be some standing here which shall not taste death. I want us to meditate on that. There be some standing here which shall not taste death. Do y'all see this word here?
Yes.
What does that mean? It means until they see the Son of Man coming in his kingdom.
Until unless
Until.
not before they
Not
yep, not before
before.
they see it.
But everybody is going to have to rest. This knowledge is going to come to a point, family, where this knowledge is going to take you so far. And when you can see the Christ consciousness coming, you're going to have to die to that knowledge, and that knowledge is going to have to die. And you're going to have to make what? A transition to what? A new heavens and a new earth. We're not talking about physical death. Adam and Eve didn't die.
Right.
No.
Right. Can't show.
But we understand, is physical death a transition? Absolutely.
Absolutely. Yes, absolutely.
But we're not admitting that. Some people are going to finish their work and what?
Yes.
Taste death
Mm-hmm.
and transition on.
Mm-hmm.
They were on another assignment.
Yes.
Yes.
But there shall be some that are going to make this transition. But you're not going to make the transition in the body that you're in now. In a solar body, that solar body is going to do what? Give way to a cosmic body.
Cosmic body. Yes. Yes.
How? In the twinkling of an eye.
Yes. Yes.
Are y'all
Absolutely.
hearing me?
Can.
Yes.
we cannot omit, family. We cannot, as much as we want to, as much as we have been trained to what? Emit death from the equation, we can't. We've been warned, don't delete it, because you'll be what? Half wise.
Yes. Yes.
We've had a poor understanding of death anyway. It don't mean it's the entrance way. No matter how you look at it, he used the word until. It's an entrance way. We're not talking about physically, but that human is going to die.
Mm-hmm.
That
Absolutely.
humanity can't go
Yes.
forward with you. So, however this is going to look like, if you are alive and remain until that time, your human body, your physical body is not going to go with you like that.
Can't do it.
Can't do it.
Nope.
We have not understood death because we have what? Omitted it from the equation.
Mm-hmm.
And there's another scripture that says, we shall not all sleep, right?
Right.
But we shall all what? Be changed.
In a twinkling of an eye.
Come on now.
Yes.
Malkia, we can't omit it as much as we've been trained to do that.
Yes.
But that idea, that concept, Nasi, this aversion to death was what? Necessary. This fight or flight thing was necessary. This fear of death. It was necessary what? To preserve us from this point. Let me tell you from a personal experience, if I didn't have it, y'all wouldn't know nobody named Eitai.
Absolutely.
Based on situations that I put myself into.
Right. Right. Come on.
How many times I put myself in harm's way from the time that I was 12, 13 years old.
Right. Yes.
Yeah.
Yes. See, you a living testimony.
I'm a living testimony to that.
Mm-hmm.
I had to have that strong instinct to survive because I was in situations, and most of us grew up in those situations, where death was prevalent.
Yes.
Likewise. Likewise.
I've been that, experienced that.
Mm-hmm.
Eitai, you was one of those that was, like many of us, that when you walk through the valley of the shadow of death, but you didn't fear no evil, huh?
I didn't fear no evil.
Mm-hmm.
Bringing the evil.
That was me. And I'm a girl. I'm saying my older brothers would not walk through the alley, but I said I challenged you because I don't know. At 13 years old, I thought they tease me now because I told everybody, "Do you know I'm 13?" I thought like I had arrived. That's what I felt. I felt this brand new energy, and I would walk through the alley in Washington D.C., southeast.
Hey, now see,
you hear me?
Cedar Road. I didn't think I could die. I didn't think nobody could kill me. True story.
That's a whole nother vibration.
Hey, true story. I'm next door to my house, and guys started playing with guns, and had guns. Dude didn't know me, didn't come up in our neighborhood, was new in our neighborhood. Everybody was down there looking at a gun that he had. Now, he had tried to challenge me, wanted to fight me, couldn't beat me. Got his cousin, couldn't do nothing with me. So we kind of squashed it, but he still had that little larceny in his heart. And he got a gun now, see? Next door in his neighbor's house, and he points the gun at me. You know what I did? This is how big a fool I was. Walked toward him and put the gun right to the center of my chest and told him, next time you point it at me, be ready to use it. Now, who
That's
knows what
that's
could
a
happen
whole
to
that's
them?
a whole other vibration.
It's a whole
There's
other
a
vibration,
vibration.
family. But I
Yes,
needed
sir.
the protection of them guardian angels.
Yes, yes, absolutely.
And it developed in me a strong sense of fight or flight and that survival instinct. So, but it comes to a point where we have to abandon that
Yeah.
and to put
Yes.
all that
Yes.
what? Voluntarily put it on the cross. So
Yes.
Mm-hmm.
the number 12 relates to the months, what? In the solar year, and symbolizes the sacrifice of not the cosmic hero, but the solar hero.
Uh-huh.
Mm-hmm.
The solar hero, what? Must transform into the cosmic hero. The only way he can do that is die.
The
Gotcha.
only
The only
Mm-hmm.
way, Nazar, he can do that is to die.
absolute.
Mm-hmm.
The hangman, now this is tarot wisdom. The hangman represents a fall in terms of ego or self-image. It's false, family. Whatever you learn to think about, all of that is false.
Yes. Unlearn it.
Unlearn it. Even what I said about myself. But I realize
Absolute.
that it's false. It also represents the loss, that is, relinquishing or sacrificing of material things. Now, there are some of us, Malkiel, Nazar, that
Mm-hmm.
are on this line that are going through a real-time process
Okay.
that is teaching us this thing. This thing.
Yes.
Ancestors told me this: seek ye first the kingdom of God and his righteousness, and all these things shall be what? Added unto you.
Okay.
Malkiel, you right on the cusp of it.
Mm-hmm.
This is what we need to hear. And this
Okay.
is what I'm pursuing. I know we all are. We must get to
Okay.
the point,
Mm-hmm.
but you're not gonna gain material things by holding on to them.
Absolutely not.
Right. Yes.
You gotta let it
Yes.
go.
Gotta let it go. Mm-hmm.
If you attempt to save it, guess what? You're gonna lose it all.
Mm-hmm.
Do not despair, for such is necessary in order to do what? Transform the lower nature into the higher self. I'm going to
Mm-hmm.
read that again.
Mm-hmm. Come on, shows.
The hangman represents a fall in terms of ego or self image. It may also represent the loss, that is, relinquishing or sacrificing of material things. And I know that this is the case. Do not despair, for such is necessary in order to transform the lower nature into the higher self. Self esteem can be repaired, and material things can be replaced. Perhaps self esteem is misdirected. And I would say, not perhaps, it definitely is. Perhaps we didn't need so much of it in the first place. Inevitably, we must go down before we can go up. And so this is symbolized by the Jesus Christ figure when he was before he was resurrected. It said he went down what? Into the lower places of the earth and preached to individuals and then brought some up with him. Are you all with me?
Okay.
indicating that that we must go down before we go up. We're gonna really talk about this in great detail later on when we speak of this. And while we hang in limbo, we can contemplate our errors. This is what we're doing, family. We're contemplating all of the errors that we made in conception, what? Of this simulated reality. In our misconception of it, in our ignorance of it. And what? Determine how to transcend them. The alchemical literature states that the alchemist must sacrifice some gold to make the philosopher's stone. And so it is with us on the mundane or earth plane. The question is, how long will you remain suspended? Now, we ask that we contemplate that. How long are we going to remain hanging here? Dancing between two opinions. One day I'm human, the next day, one day I'm divine, the next day I'm human. One moment I'm human, then the next moment I'm divine. The choice is yours. In Psalms 82, we're going to break this down now. This is the King James Version, and it is purposefully hidden and obscured from the essential meaning in the King James Version, but we'll read it anyway. God standeth in the congregation of the mighty, he judgeth among the gods. How long will ye judge unjustly? And the particular portion of scripture we want to really focus on is and accept the persons of the wicked. And then it says what? Selah. Meditate on this. You got to really meditate. And to me, when I see that, it tells me really go under what? The surface of the scripture. The surface. Go into the Hebrew. And so when we look at this term, accept the persons of the wicked, accept is nasa. And it literally means lift up or carry. The persons, and the word persons is panaim. In the Hebrew, the phrase is nasa u panaim, and accept or carry the faces or face of the wicked. This is very, very instructive. That's why it says Selah here. Think about that. Investigate further. Psalms 82 in Young's literal translation, and this is what I try to use when I know that the portion of scripture has been really obscured. I go to Young's literal translation, and it says, "The gods have stood in the company of the gods. In the midst of the gods doth they judge." So the gods is talking about the ancestors standing in our company, and in our midst is judging our work. Because, family, we are on assignment individually. You with me, Amaria? We are each on individual assignments. Till when do you judge perversely, and the face of the wicked lift up? The face of the wicked lift up. It's literally asking the question when it says, how long will ye accept the persons of the wicked? It's how long will ye wear the mask of, that is, masquerade as a human? That's the question that is being asked. How long are you going to masquerade as a human? You're a God, you're divine. In this diagram, it shows the parallel of the terrestrial consciousness. Now that's the consciousness that allows us to what? Navigate the simulated reality. But it also shows to the right the celestial or divine God consciousness of the solar universe. There, it's pointing to what they refer to in terms of the human consciousness, a neural web or network. But from an energetic view, it is showing the cosmic web or network. Energetic, cosmic. One aids us what? Within the simulated solar reality system. The other one aids us in the cosmic multiverse. The word Terra of terrestrial refers to Earth, the planet Earth, the simulated reality. Persona, now, we're talking about the persons of the wicked. It relates to the word persona, which relates to the social role or character that you learn to play within the simulated reality. It has nothing to do with your divine character. And persona relates to a theatrical mask. They used to wear these clay masks or masks made of wood that were painted, and they held on a stick. And as the actor would come on stage, he would hold this mask up as the character and speak through the mask. Just like your divinity speaks through your human character. It is simply a role in life that you are playing. The terra persona translates to earth person, that is human, or portrayal of an earthly human character. The question is, how long are you going to masquerade around as that character before what? Transitioning to the divine entity that we all are. Person is defined as being a human being, regarded as an individual. The etymological understanding of person is, of course, a human being, but more instructive, an individual that is part, or a character that is part in a drama, an assumed character, an assumed identity. Originally a mask. So when it talks about lifting up and carrying the mask, that's carrying a false face. and they were made of wood, clay, and they were worn by actors in the Roman theater. This is this false face, and it refers even earlier to the Etruscan word "fersu" or mask. We're all wearing masks. We're divinity, what? Masquerading as humans. I thought this was excellent here, an excellent representation. You see in the middle different representations of the man Sigmund Freud, all right, that came up with this id, ego, and superego. And this is characters from the Batman mythology and the Batman universe. And to the right, you see the id as the Joker. And always within popular culture and modern mythology, they are going to represent your essential character as devilish, as villainous, and evil. Because accessing this, the id is a reservoir of energy. Accessing your core is going to mean you accessing and activating what? Your power, connecting to that power internally. So they always cast the id as evil, as villainous, as satanic. And they make what? The ego the hero. The ego is Batman. That what? Fights against the id and always triumphs, right? Because this is the dominant culture wanting to keep you locked into the ego, locked into the what? False character that what, family? Wears the mask or the persona. And the superego represents the Bruce Wayne character, morality, right and wrong, that instructs the Batman to what? Fight the impulses and the desires and the instincts of the id, the true self. We have to really contemplate this. We'll come back to that a little bit later. I thought that was brilliant. And that we'll see that when we look at things like Black Panther, Killmonger is the Joker, representing the id or the S. Eric Stevens. T'Challa represents the ego, and his father, the superego, or the superego, the traditions and learned of the father, the customs passed through. So customs, listen, those customs cause us to do what? Wear the costume. Costume. Y'all with me?
Yeah.
This is how the Joker looks. Now see, Joker ain't
Yeah.
wearing no costume. That's how the Joker looks.
Yeah. Right.
For though we walk in the flesh, we don't war after the flesh. For the weapons of our warfare are not carnal, but mighty through God to the pulling down of strongholds. This word strongholds now, again, a lot of times when we hear that, we think external, that we're fighting something external.
Huh? Don't tell me it is just. I know it doesn't beat.
I just told you it didn't beat. If you tell me I'm a lie, I can give it to you.
No, I'm talking about.
So these strongholds are not external at all. They are internal. And this is where the battle begins. Judgment begins with the house of God, within this temple. And these strongholds refer to, this is a Greek word, akuroma in Greek, akuroma. And it refers to the arguments and reasonings by which a disputant attempts to fortify his or her opinion and to defend it against his opponent. And it refers also to anything upon which one relies. And again, we've relied on this simulated reality, and we relied on this knowledge, aka the serpent, the wisdom of that particular system that has guided us through that system unto this point. But family, what you got to realize is if you made it to this point, you're at the point of of transition. So what our ancestors are telling us now is that it is time to hang it up, to hang the mask upside down, to hang the Batman costume upside down, and to live according to what? Your essence, your true self. So this great work, again, family, as we close, refers to the work that you emanated in here to do, that you are remembering as you connect more securely with the source. It is being made apparent what it is, what your true destiny, what your true assignment, what your true work is. So the great work refers in the alchemical and hermetic tradition to the process of transmutation of the primal material called the prima materia into the philosopher's stone. The philosopher's stone is the most refined and valuable substance. Now, what are we talking about? That's melanin. And melanin is produced by a stone that is internal called the pineal gland. All right, that is the philosopher's stone. The pineal gland. That is what? The source in terms of our body, our physical temple. The philosopher's stone is the source of the most refined and valuable substance, which is melanin, which through the alchemical process emerges from the crudest and most worthless. In traditional alchemy, this was the transmutation of lead into gold. Later, in the Gnostic tradition, this was interpreted not as the transmutation of metal, but the soul or psyche of the alchemist himself. So this is what obviously we're referring to. And the hangman, the sacrifice or voluntary death or crucifixion of the ego, of everything that is related to this solar system. Again, the sacrifice or the death of the solar hero. And you're a hero because you made it this far. But the hero has to move aside has to relinquish its hold on you in order that you transition into the cosmic hero. The move from the terrestrial consciousness to the celestial consciousness. Carl Gustav Jung, the founder of analytical psychology, usually referred to as Jungian psychology, saw in Gnostic alchemy a precedent to the process of individuation as encountered in his clinical practice. This was a breakthrough for Jung and offered a vast amount of data supporting the theory of the collective unconscious wholeness. More specifically, that psychic transformation follows an archetypal and universal process. Well, where did Jung get this from? We're going to find out that he detailed this thing in specific, exact detail. And our ancestors visited him and gave him this knowledge. So sometimes we make the mistake of thinking, oh man, this is Euro-Gentile, it's talking about psychic. No, this is just his interpretation of our science and knowledge. And again, I have it explicated in another study where he talks in detail, in his own handwriting, in his own words, about how these so-called ghostly apparitions came, and everything that this Jungian psychology, so named, is based on what he referred to himself and coined the 7 sermons of the dead. He was entrusted with this knowledge, made a custodian. Him, along with some other Euro-Gentiles, were made custodians of this knowledge. Why? While we were undergoing this anesthetic sleep process. To what? Correct the flaw. But this is available to us now. And what are we doing? Same thing they're doing in South Africa, reclaiming our stuff. This transformative process happens through the integration of the conscious and unconscious aspects of the subject's psychology. Jung describes this process as having 4 stages: confession, elucidation, education, and we know this is dedication, and transformation. And what this education is, as far as it relates to us, is what? Unlearning, relinquishing what we've been educated, and then transformation. We are in this process. Some of us are even into the transformative process. This is an analog for the 4 stages of alchemical transmutation: nigredo, albedo, citrinatus, and rubedo. Black, white, yellow, red. And what we're going to do is we're going to stop here. We've had a lot of information. We're going to stop here. Next time we get on, we're going to begin talking about these 4 aspects that lead to what? Transmutation, the final stage of this alchemical process that we have been educated on and know. So, family, we should be encouraged right at the doorstep of so many things right now, and are on the threshold of regaining this divine power. And then Malkiel, we're gonna add teeth
Mm-hmm.
to
Absolutely.
these demands of sovereignty. And they're gonna
Uh-huh.
find out that it ain't,
Yes, sir.
that it's not about guns, it's not about
Right.
all those things that they worship.
Exactly. Mm-hmm.
That have to do with violence and forced coercion,
Right.
all
Lying,
force,
stealing.
lying, stealing, and stuff like
Mm-hmm.
that. Nah, this has
Nah.
to do with who wears the crown and why.
Yes. Yes.
Wears the crown and why.
Mm-hmm.
So I'll end that by saying wholeness, family.